Check test 1 2.
Hey.
Yeah, we're here.
Great. Victim.
That was Victim by Idlewave.
I love that song. That's actually probably my favorite of that batch of songs. It's just
I think it's my favorite of them all.
wow.
Yeah.
That's a good take, actually. I think maybe I'm biased in the sense that I always love the songs that make me want to like beat somebody up, you know, just like. And there are more than a few Idlewave songs that do that for me. But
This one's weird too. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend this to anybody. It's a weird song. No,
it's like who's this for? It's like the hardcore kids? No, indie? I don't know.
it's for none of them. Yeah. No, it's strange. This is like music for me. This is
Well,
like,
shouldn't it all be?
yeah. No, but especially this is the one that like I'll put on like no hesitation. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what mood I'm in. Like I'm in the mood for Victim. Like at
yeah.
all times. Yeah, that bounciness, just the Turnstile record was very big when I was putting this together, and
That makes so much sense.
I was just messing around with acoustic guitar, came up with the riff, and then I came up with that kind of like Foo Fighters-y chorus.
Right.
And put them together, started going into Logic and getting a drum groove down for it. And I was like, okay, cool. This is sounding very fun with just like one electric guitar, the vocal, and just a little silly drum kit sound.
Yeah, it's really an interesting beast because I feel like it taps into so many different things. Where like you have like the sort of pop punkiness of like the main chorus. You have the like, you know, heavy guitar part that also is on an acoustic guitar at some point. And then you have like the really digitized like auto-tune part with the, you know, the synth there. Almost sometimes harkens back to like the early like 2010s, late 2000s with like some of what like some of those metal bands are doing and like what some other hardcore bands are doing. Or even just like indie bands as well. It's like you have the chorus, but before you even get to that, you have a version of the chorus that's just like weird. Like it's like auto-tune on, instruments out, you know, like synth and whatnot. And it's, how did you arrive at like piecing those things together?
Yeah, because I think the demo is just acoustic, that first chorus, and then like halfway through there'd be like ooze come in over it, which
Right.
I was pretty much married to. But I think in that time of production, all the other things going on in that circle with like auto-tune
Sure.
and the 8-bit sounding guitar and everything like that. It
Right.
was just like, when we did it, it was like, all right, yeah, I mean, I'm not fighting this. This is sick. Very cool juxtaposition. I will say though, back to what you were saying, the acoustic guitar, if anybody has a song or a band that uses an acoustic guitar like that with like really heavy riffs,
Yeah.
I need to hear this.
Oh yeah.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I'm sure they exist, but
They definitely exist. But again, yeah, like I couldn't pull like an example for you.
like off a drum groove like that, which is just like, it does it all. It's like a 4/4, but it's dancey,
Yeah.
and it packs a punch even with like a closed hi-hat, and it's just this like movement going through the whole time.
Oh, for sure.
That space is really like my favorite thing about the whole song.
No, it does a lot. Like the impact from that space like is enormous. And the payoff it leads to is also huge. Like
That and the synth arpeggiator going crazy
Yeah.
when the chorus or when the bridge first hits, which is always fun too.
oh yeah. Like it's everything is just kind of like hitting the wall right there.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of fun.
Which I think is nice in a batch of songs that are still trying to find their center. But I mean, I always love writing the very stripped back, emotional, heart on my sleeve, like interesting arrangements
Of course.
in whatever genre that may be, if it's like pop punk or emo or whatever it is. And then this one is just like, okay, this is a little more into the weeds of that. But it's also like it keeps those other elements. Like this and Space, we played back to back. Or this and When I'm Feeling Down, we played back to back.
Sure.
Or this and Thanks I Hate It. And it all works.
Definitely.
Which was something I was losing sleep over for a while, of like, things I write, are they going to like stack up with each other well? Is it going to make sense?
I would say so, like, and I think we've touched upon this briefly in another podcast about the sort of like eras for Idlewave, in the sense that like it's always been a journey of self-discovery at the moment, where it's like whatever batch of songs you're writing fit together in certain ways, whether it be Party Guy, and then like first self-titled EP, right. Party Guy, Dream Guy, these batch of songs, and then the songs that followed or that are following. But this specific batch, I always felt like even though you were experimenting and finding the center for those songs, I always felt like they were, in a sense, a jumping off point from Dream Guy.
Yeah.
Like they were like an exposition on the sound you would already were already honing at that time.
I think too, this was the first batch of songs that was completely demoed. I think Dream Guy, a surprising majority ended up being somewhat demoed, which helped a lot, and it helped me a lot kind of experiment with new ideas. And then these were like maybe every song out of this session, or this groups of sessions were demoed. And
that was kind of your thing at the moment, was like demoing everything.
I was like, I can make a mean demo. Like I can't record, but I can make a mean demo. And this one especially, I loved listening to. It's just like, no matter how like silly the drums sounded or whatever, I had a lot of fun with the vocals. Yeah. Stacking the vocals and accenting and doing these gang vocals and accenting certain lines and harmonizing some other lines with that like kind of Gerard Way style impact to it.
Sure.
New Jersey. But
represent.
Yeah, represent. But kind of carving out, I made something weird, which is cool. And
it's always really,
of course, it's very fun to play live too, especially when we're just practicing it. I think we like abandoned like a backing track for it too. I don't think we ever really settled on like what needs to be there, which is cool because Samir could just play whatever tempo he wants. Like, we could even start it like faster.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that's
it would still work.
That's such a vibe playing it live, and it's like like just
yeah. And what's extra interesting about that, and this is a thing that a lot of like hardcore bands have found, like using dead air at like to your advantage for impact, especially with tempo. It's like, yeah, Samir could come in at any tempo he wants to start it off. If you wanted to slow it down or speed it up for the breakdown part, theoretically you could, and it would be easy. Yeah. Because you have the dead air, and it's like, okay, you lead the tempo now for how you want it to sound. And then everyone comes in on it.
We also, live, we extended it because we did that breakdown again at the end of that final chorus, instead of like cutting the song, just going like right back into that, like
you can
jamming
go crazy
out on that part. Yeah. Which has been very fun too, because I think this type of music, it's cool to have a show.
When absolutely.
Like the set's being played. Like, it's not overdone at all. The songs aren't really that long, and like the grooves are pretty well thought out, where it's like you can move to this, and like doing a kind of hardcore breakdown at the end of it's fun. Well, I wouldn't even say it's a hardcore breakdown. I feel like
it's its own thing. There's
a lot more space in it.
It teeters the line, but like there's a lot more space in it. It definitely like touches on some of those concepts, but like while doing its own thing.
Yeah. That dissonance in the original in the chord progression, I can't even explain. It doesn't even make sense, but I like the way it sounds.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with power chords. Like, you can basically just do whatever.
Yeah,
and like make it sound cool, even if it doesn't make sense.
It's so weird. It's like you take your first fret on the lowest string, and then, you do the first finger on the third fret of the lowest string, and then the sixth fret of the next string, and then fall that into the fourth fret on the next string.
Also, it's not they're not just straight power chords. It's like you got some weird stuff.
They're weird.
Yeah.
And I love that space between the acoustic guitar and the drums.
Yeah, no,
I'm obsessed with it.
It's super impactful. Like it feels like you're getting hit with like a ton of bricks, because of like that space there is just huge.
Yeah.
No, please.
Second verse I love too.
Oh yeah.
We always talk about looking back on where you were in that moment, and that thing you're talking about.
Right.
And I was even thinking about this the other day, how it's like, I told you I have this song, but the first verse just repeats twice. And I was like, I'm going to write a second verse. Like, no need to be lazy with this one. And I wrote it and I felt good. And I was just like, I always love crushing a second verse.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I always love really impressing myself with a second verse. And it's very important, too, because chorus is obviously very important. I think the first line of your song's
always
incredibly important.
Yeah.
And then a good second verse is just keep the thing moving.
In a sense, I always find that a good second verse is like a second hook where it's like, okay, you got your audience you got them in by a good first line. You got them through the chorus because, that's the hook. Like, that's what you want to keep them there. But like a lot of people, I could just turn the song off after the first chorus because I'm like, I get the idea. But if the verse, that second verse, you're like, oh, wait, let me keep listening here. Like there's power in that.
I think some of my favorite hip hop songs lean on the second verse.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That second verse is just pops so well.
There's like a lot more
adds a lot
extra
more to
room,
it.
I think,
Yeah.
in the second verse where like you can kind of go from like, it's not just like an intro to the song. It's like you can kind of go a little harder.
Yeah, if your flow, you don't want to disrupt that flow either. Like if you need a little longer to get to that second chorus because you're just like you're too busy riffing on like this idea and everything, like you have to let that grow and expand
ride it
and,
out.
like, do it. Yeah.
Definitely.
I know it's a big Danny Brown is the first person that comes to mind, and like Eminem too, like early Eminem, like before the chorus they would always have an extra little like not pre-chorus but addition to the verse.
Yeah.
Like we joke about it at work all the time, the Moby diss he does and Without Me.
Oh my god,
he's like,
that's
you're
right.
too old, it's over, nobody listens to techno. Like, just
I forgot about that.
Oh, we're putting that on right after.
Yeah, he kind of just like keeps going. You're like, oh wait, yeah, let him cook. Like
he like stops the flow to just like slow it down. Like beat's still going, everything. He's just like, you're too old, it's over, you washed up.
Yeah, and it accents like the instead of just like him hitting the downs, like you get like little accents off of the beat, and you're like, that's really sick.
Re-listen, it's like Eminem, like
I mean,
a huge joke right now is like a household name.
Yeah, because he washed up. Yeah,
no
like,
offense to Eminem, just like it's like almost a meme of himself, like the dude who does the like Eminem proposing or Eminem falling down the stairs
it's funny.
meme, or like the parodies or the MGK beef, but those original Eminem songs
are great. Yeah.
Oh my god, re-listening to them, it's like,
yeah.
oh, the fire behind this is like,
oh, it's insane. Like he had a vision and like executed it, and he was very creative about it. And I think
the second verses are memorable.
The second verses,
like those things like that, like where
exactly.
it's just like, those matter so much to taking you through the whole 4.5 minutes or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like they're instrumental in making a song not feel like it's 4.5, 5 minutes. Like with a good second verse that can go on for as long as it needs to, you could turn around and be like, this song like is over already. It's like, no, it's been going on for 3.5, 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just didn't realize it because you were in it. And and I felt like that. I actually have always felt like that since Victim came out, or since you were really like writing it. Like I find the imagery for the second verse so compelling. Like, the part with like birds. I was right. That's the verse. The part where you mentioned the birds.
First verse.
That's the first verse.
Yeah, it's in the first.
It's the second half of the first verse, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So wait, what's the second verse then?
Second verse is don't think about the future. You're just gonna die.
Oh my, that line. That's right. Like
I like wrote that down.
Hits you.
I was like, oh, cool. Here's
cool.
something.
Hey, neat. Like that's.
I was like, neato. Yeah, that's something.
Yeah, in a way, it's like because you say a lot of like cool things, and then like in the first verse, you get your chorus, and then they're like, "Don't think about the future. You're just gonna die." In the second verse, you're like, "Whoa, where did that come from?"
Yeah, we were talking about a band before we hit record. How you're like he's saying a lot without saying anything.
Oh yeah, Cheek
like,
Face.
Yeah, and just the having this whole existential, like pulling myself out of this existential dread and finding self-worth.
Yeah.
Despite these like notions, whether it be voice in my head or other people's voices or my interpretations of like pressing down on me. And then like the end of it is just like, it doesn't matter. You're gonna die anyway.
Exactly.
Why even think about it?
Right. And it's like, yeah, and you said all that, and like I feel like it successfully expresses that, yeah, in just like a line.
Yeah, the birds. When I was like riffing this, birds just came out my mouth, like just like I don't know.
That's yeah.
And I like that because it's something I could think about. It's something that probably in like 20 years I'll have a different perspective on.
Sure.
Than when I was writing it about what I'm trying to say. I think it's a nice analogy.
Yeah,
Of kind of like freedom and following a path.
Yeah, that's how I interpret it, and it also like it's evocative of image. Like you can see that it's something tangible,
Right?
Whereas like a lot of songwriting can be abstract. It's about concepts. It's about feelings. But suddenly you say something like talking about birds, and like you suddenly see and feel it. Or it's like, I'm there, I'm flying, I'm free, or I'm watching those things flying and being free.
I was watching...
Or a desire to be.
No, I wasn't watching something. I heard this old song the other day that like everybody loves. What was it? And I was thinking about the lyrics. It was like a really old song, and I was just like...
How old?
Might be from the 60s.
Okay.
It's like well beloved by everybody, but my point is, like, it was one of those things where I got to stop in that moment and think about the words in the verse, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And like how that could impact somebody. Like, even if they're not saying a specific, it's not like a Billy Joel song saying like she went to the diner, blah, blah, blah.
Right. Like I moved to Hoboken.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a very vague like verse that anybody could come up with.
Right.
But the way it was all placed out, it painted that picture in your head, and it was just like, it opened my eyes to like, because we always in college we were really into people that wrote very descriptive lyrics,
right?
And
I feel like Front Bottoms or whatever artists like
Wonder Years
specifically, like
specific.
Here's a specific place and a time we were there, 2006.
Say anything very specific.
Yeah, but sometimes. Yeah, and I think it's a concept we touched upon in our songwriting class that we took in college together about attaining the universal through the specific.
Yes.
It's like, I can make you feel a thing by describing a very specific thing. But sometimes the inverse is true, where it's like, this can be general and I'm applying it to a specific situation.
I think,
Which is what you're getting at, right? The song wasn't super specific, but like you felt.
Yeah. Which I think's immensely powerful.
I think it's more difficult. So and it is extremely
making that translate.
Yeah.
I feel like as many people as you could, as many yes men as there were in the room, like, yeah, this rules. Like, this is the song's great. Producers like, oh, that's awesome. This is gonna be a hit. It's like carrying to where, like, however long, 40, 50 years later, I'm like hearing a song I've heard hundreds of times, but I'm like listening to it.
Right.
And it's like,
there's a lot of times a difference, like with like hearing a song for could be decades and then like listening to it.
I didn't know what the lyrics to Viva La Vida was till today.
I know like some of them. I know there's a lot of religious imagery in there.
I don't hate that song anymore.
No, it's cool.
I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
He's been popping up on a lot of stuff in my feed, and I'm just like, God, I never disliked him. And then I like re-listen to some of their old stuff, and I'm like, okay, Coldplay kind of rules.
Dude, I've gone to bat with people on this. Like, I really like Coldplay.
They're an incredible band.
They have like a solid, like, from beginning to like 5 albums in, like a 5-album,
I know,
extremely solid stretch.
Yeah,
like where it's like the song, Chris Martin's songwriting through those points was just like unreal. Like he was a giant. It was amazing. Then they, tried experimenting more like pop stuff, which I'm not going to fault them for trying that, but it got like a little out of hand. I'm not a fan of that.
And I think that's why that was like the like surface level why we weren't like super into them.
Yeah, like Every Tear is a Waterfall. I'm like, I don't know if this is for me.
Paradise.
Yeah. Paradise is, I'm like, we're way too far gone.
But I think Chris Martin's his voice, I always thought it was softer than it actually is.
Yeah,
Viva La Vida's like kind of top of his range.
Oh yeah, he's really singing it.
And yeah, there's a lot going on in that chorus. Even you gotta look it up.
I'm gonna look it up. Yeah,
it's wild. I mean,
I'm always a sucker for like, even if like I don't consider myself a religious person, or, you know, whatever, your mileage may vary with that stuff. It's up to you. I love religious imagery. I mean, you can see it in my songs. It's like, I just love that kind of stuff.
How about this? I hear Jerusalem bells are ringing, Roman cavalry choirs are singing, be my mirror, my sword and shield, my missionaries in a foreign field.
That foreign field, like, dude, missionaries in a foreign field goes unbelievably hard. All of it goes hard.
For some reason I can't explain. Once you'd gone, there was never an honest word, and that was when I ruled the world. Which is just like, I think because the way we've heard this song,
yeah,
because there is
it's all over the radio.
There's something with something just being on the radio, and like,
there's no reason to dig deeper.
We're not like listening in like headphones or our car or anything like that. Well, that's the thing. It's like, I don't need to listen to this on my own because I'm being kind of force fed it.
Yeah, you're kind of like being inundated with like any song that's on the radio. You're gonna hear it 1,000 times. You're hearing it in a car with a bunch of surrounded by a bunch of people. Yeah, so why am I listening to what they're saying? You're not gonna.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. That is it though.
Yeah.
It's kind of like our form of counterculture. It's like, well, that's cool, so like it's not cool.
Yeah.
Like it's widely accepted, but like, so I never really needed to look at these lyrics. All I know is, and that was when I ruled the world or whatever. Just kind of like that by itself is like, that's lame.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, Tears for Fears already did it. You know, everybody wants
right, or just something like that. But yeah, the way this breaks down, I'm gonna do a deep dive on this song because there's a lot going on here. I don't think he was just rhyming things.
Exactly. No,
like, I think there's
a thing going on.
There's
here.
something going on.
Yeah. No, that imagery, you're like, whoa! Like suddenly I'm in some tall grass, and you know, there's people in robes, and it's 1100 AD. It's 800 AD. Like I'm in Europe. I don't know.
Yeah, I almost wish the song wasn't popular. I feel like I'd like it more.
Yeah,
because
I agree with
like,
that.
This is art.
Yeah.
You know, this is not like never mind.
What are you gonna say?
Like, people are throwing soup at like the Mona Lisa in quotation marks. You know that's not it, right?
Right, it's not.
You know, it's not just in a museum.
Yeah, no, it's not yeah.
You're just gonna get arrested. That's so dumb.
It's so dumb. Oh,
yeah. Like, if you survey like 10 people, and you're like, what do you think of people throwing soup at the Mona Lisa in the Louvre or whatever? They're gonna be like, do they drink bathtub water? Like, what is going on? It's stupid. That's preposterous.
Yeah.
That's not doing it. That's not accomplishing anything. Yeah. I don't align with that, whatever that is.
Right, yeah.
Like, I don't know.
No, it's like the dismantling of art. Like, and like whatever, like you think you're doing with it. Like
there's glass over that. Yeah. And it's not it.
Like, is that true?
That's not it.
It's not it. It's what's sealed away.
It's sealed away.
I was not aware of that.
That's not it.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Like,
there's no way that is. Let's say I'm wrong. It's still covered by glass.
Either way, yeah. Like, I guess that point aside, yeah, it's still covered. Like,
if I could squeeze you the soup off, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's like, it's not going to do. It's not doing anything.
Yeah. How could that be preserved just sitting there in the Louvre?
I think they probably maintain. If it is, they probably maintain it.
Well, it's old.
Yeah, a lot of old paintings are.
That's an old one, though.
Yeah. I mean,
it's Da Vinci, right?
It's Da Vinci, yeah. So we're looking at like 1500s. I've seen older paintings in person.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, that is probably one of the most valuable paintings in the world.
Yeah, so which is why I don't think... I've seen it. I've been to the Louvre before.
You have?
Yeah, it's small.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was cool. I wish I retained more from that experience. It's a lot to take in when you're like 17.
Yeah, that's the thing about traveling the world young, when you're like, oh, this is cool, but do I really appreciate it?
Yeah. No, I definitely did. It's just looking back, I wish I had more of like a memory in my head of like I remember seeing that, and it was small. I remember the architecture of the Louvre was very.
It's crazy, right? To the big glass
yeah
pyramid or whatever it is.
There's not many like buildings like that when
No.
you think about it. Like just the like layout of it, and that's all I remember. Like I remember like stopping and looking at art, but I can't tell you anything else
like what you saw, that
made me feel something. But it was very overwhelming just looking at. I mean, they have like the layout's so clean.
Oh, sure.
And then you're looking at these majestic, like huge pieces.
Yeah, oh yeah. Some are like massive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gigantic.
Like I'm pretty sure I could be mistaken. There's some big Monets in the Louvre. I know there is some like
absolutely.
the Met, but like I'm pretty sure huge. Or maybe I'm thinking maybe that's the British museum. Either way. Like, yeah, like there's a lot of like huge format, like pieces of art there. Like, and it is overwhelming. And in a way though, like you might not remember what it is you saw, but you definitely remember feeling overwhelmed. And I think that's like kind of the point of art sometimes, is to overwhelm you with like a thought or a feeling. And that kind of thing translates into songwriting in a way. It's like, even if I can't remember the name of a song when I'm trying to recall it or a lyric from it, but I do remember how it like felt when I read it or heard it for the first time. And I think that's like what we're trying to attain as like songwriters. Like, it doesn't matter what I say sometimes, but it does matter how I'm trying to convey a feeling.
Right. I think that like that culture too of like showing people things.
Oh yeah.
On a like personal dynamic. You and I hanging out and like showing each other new music, reminiscing on stuff.
Of course.
It's always like such a detrimental thing I look forward to, and I've had a lot of great experiences in my life with people showing me music in private, and it's like,
oh yeah,
it is really cool. And I'm glad that art museum doesn't work like that, or I'm glad that music doesn't work like that, where it's like there's like a display with one song playing and you hear a different song playing down the hall that other people are walking over to, and you're like, how do I pay attention to both at once? And then I feel like that's what happens to me at museums sometimes, where it's like
your eyes are always moving to the next thing.
Yeah, it's different when it's like, check this song out,
right?
And then like 3.5 minutes of
that's it.
Either
like that's
silence
the focus.
or like what, like reactions, or and I hope people are still. I'm sure that'll continue.
What, with like the
sharing music
one-on-one? Yeah. I mean, between us, like we've like that's always been a focal point, and like I think even the finished product, like whether it's my song, not one of our songs that we're sharing with each other, we're sharing with other people. I think the sharing of the song is like as a form is meaningful, because like there's a reason you're sharing this thing with someone, whether it's making you feel a certain way, whether it's something you think they would like, or it makes you think of them. Like, it's like sharing of art in that intimate setting is important.
They say it's just a time in your life, but it's out of spite. Every night, each night,